Today we're going to look at multiplying integers using integer tiles. So first thing I want to do is we're going to try to switch our thinking. When we see 3 times 4, I want us, when we're using integer tiles, to try to think about it as 3 groups of 4. The 3 is the number of groups. I have 3 groups of 4. So the 4 is the number in each group. The reason this is helpful is because now we can make our 3 groups. Here's our 3 groups. The 4 is what is in each group. So I'm going to put 4 in there, and these are positive, so I put pluses. So I have my 3 groups of 4. So 3 groups of 4, or 3 times 4, is 12, and it's a positive 12. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we are going to start looking at positive and negative integers and when we multiply them. So let's change these. Let's change it to 5 and negative 2. So we have 5 groups of negative 2. Let's make our 5 groups. Here's our 5 groups. The number in each group is negative 2. Now I need to show that these are negative. So there's my 2 negatives. And I need to put 2 negatives in each of the 5 groups. So 5 times negative 2, or 5 groups of negative 2, is 10. So I used up 10 tiles, but they're all negative. So it's a negative 10. So 5 times negative 2 is a negative 10. Okay. But if my problem, let's say it's negative 3 times 2. I need to now switch these 2 around. I can't have negative 3 groups. I can have 2 groups of negative 3. So just know that in multiplication, we can switch the 2 around without switching our answer. So let's just rewrite this as 2 groups of negative 3. So we've got, here's our 2 groups. Let's put negative 3 in each. So 2 times negative 3, or negative 3 times 2, is negative 6. Okay. There is one situation that is a little bit more difficult to represent with integer tiles, and that's when you have 2 negative numbers. Let's say we have negative 4 times negative 2. We, again, can't have negative groups. And it doesn't matter how we switch these around, we're going to have a negative amount of groups, which we can't represent with integer tiles. So what we do here is we think about this negative sign as a subtraction sign. Let's think about it as taking away or subtracting 4 groups of negative 2. Well, what are we subtracting it from? Okay, and that's 0. So we're going to think about taking it away from 0. So we're going to make some 0 pairs here because this is 0, right? A positive, 2 positives and 2 negatives, that's a 0 pair, 2 0 pairs. We're going to make 8 of these. So we've got 8. We're going to remove 4 groups of negative 2. So here's my 1 group, my 2nd group, my 3rd group. Here's my 4 groups of negative 2. I'm going to remove them. So I'm going to show that I'm removing them by putting arrows here. If I take those away, I'm left, maybe I'll circle them in red. I'm left with these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm left with 8, which is my answer. So a negative 4 times a negative 2 is a positive 8. Okay. There is a trick to help remember when you're multiplying integers, and it's the smiley face trick. If the eyes match, it's a smiley face, or it's positive, because a positive times a positive is a positive number. If the eyes do not, and that works for a negative too. A negative times a negative is a positive, like what we just showed in our last example. If the eyes don't match, so if one's a positive and one's a negative, it's going to be a negative number. Okay? So 2 positives multiplied together is a positive number. 2 negatives multiplied together is a positive number. But a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive is a negative number. Okay? We'll keep working on these in class, and we'll see you then.